So now it's the time for the lunch break. Please be back at 1:45 because this is when the next panel starts. And just a kind reminder about the safeguarding policy. Please adjust your language and subjects you offer to be discussed in this room accordingly to the circumstances. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back after the lunch break. There are still some people having lunch, so I imagine they will be joining us in a minute. But now I'm going to hand over to Joanna Sosnowska, who will be the moderator of the second panel discussion, Accountability, Law and Media, when Disinformation Causes Harm.
No. Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna Sosnowska. Thank you for the introduction. I'm a journalist and editor. I work for Gazeta Wyborcza, and I'm also a podcaster. I'm a co-host of Tekstoria podcast at Radio Tok FM. And with me today are four amazing experts on disinformation. So we have Aleksandra Sobczak, the president of the management board of Wyborcza and Gazeta media companies, a long-time journalist, editor, deputy editor-in-chief, and an expert in disinformation. You have to see. Yeah. We also have Natalia Żaba, teaching fellow at Google News Initiative. She has extensive journalistic experience, and among other things, she has covered a lot about politics in the Balkan region.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And we also have Marek Mraczka, one of the founders of Memo 98, a Slovak NGO specializing in media monitoring. He has a background in social sciences and has been following elections since 2001. Very impressive.
Thank you. Pointing to my age, thank you very much.
And last but not least, of course, we have Tanos Sitisias, a Greek fact-checker, founder of the Greece Fact Check, and a core member of Fact Check Cyprus. And he has over a decade of experience in combating disinformation. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
So I would like to start with a quote from a message that I received after recording an episode of my podcast on gender disinformation. And let me read it. It's really short. So I quote, "Want some feedback? There used to be a pretty cool podcast where two quite cool and competent girls explained how the world works. Until one day, they came out of the closet and turned out to be femi-fascists, and it turned out they don't care about colonizing Mars at all, but about matriarchy. They thus became further proof that granting women the right to vote was an existential mistake of the Western culture/civilization. For democracy leads to matriarchy, that to socialism, and socialism to impoverishment, chaos, and collapse. The Arabs and the Chinese, for example, know this and are patiently waiting for the communizing femi-fascists to dismantle the so-called West themselves." And I think it's a beautiful example to kick off our discussion today, because we are covering something very untangible, something very hard to define itself. So I would start with Natalia, and I would ask you, what is the scale of gendered disinformation? Who statistically is the typical victim of such campaigns?
Gender disinformation is, I think, another pandemic in nowadays world, unfortunately. And in Poland specifically, it's very hard to talk about it because in English language we have this differentiation, disinformation, misinformation, and what both are. In Polish language we don't. Everything is like translated disinformation, without understanding that it's coordinated, very well organized, that behind this there are, massive amounts of money very often and big centers of power. So nowadays, unfortunately, gender disinformation is weaponized against specifically women, but also LGBT community members, to silence them and to neutralize what they are trying to say and state in particular society. Unfortunately, Poland is no different in that section.
And what would be the effect of silencing women in particular?
Well, then we have a massive part of society that cannot voice out their concerns. They are not participating in social gatherings. And actually, this is ongoing in Poland every day. When you look at the number of women in our parliament in Poland, is very poor. When you look at the numbers of women in Poland participating in big business, in big decision making in any sector, count how many of them are really there on big important positions. Not too many, right? And we are better educated. Whenever I'm outside of Poland, I always hear one thing that really went well in Poland during, the system change are women. I hear it everywhere I go, and look at our position now in our society here. So this is happening, whether in media, outside of the media. Unfortunately, this is the process. The result is we are absent. Our voice doesn't matter. And not only that, we are neutralized. And by neutralization, I don't only mean that you go home and shut up. I mean, you don't participate, you don't make decisions, you are not able to provide any ideas how to solve problems that, belong to every one of us to be solved, right? So this is annihilation of a big part of society, vital part of society.
At this point, I have to mention that there will be time for questions at the end, so please take notes and even disrupt us, even if you have something important to add or to mention. But Tanos, I would ask you, what kind of gender disinformation has struck you, let's say in Europe, in the last few months?
I wouldn't say in the last few months, because it's an ongoing process, which began in 2022 with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And it has to do with women from Ukraine in general. And they focus a lot on their morality, on their incentives, on the fact that they come to the rest of Europe to steal the husbands of the women of Europe, which is quite pronounced here in Poland as well. We see that a lot. So I would say that these poor women have suffered the most in the past couple of years. And there are many, many examples of fact-checking such claims, crazy claims like that they call upon their husbands to go to war so that to get some compensation, some money from the Ukrainian government, and so on. So I would like to leave it and focus especially on that issue, which is very pervasive. There are, of course, many other occasions and many other examples, but I think at the moment this is the one that is most troubling me.
Ola, would you add something? Because I think that Poland and Greece might have a lot in common.
Yeah, sure. We see the same kind of disinformation about Ukrainian women, but I would like to also add something to this topic that Natalia mentioned about neutralizing women. I see it from the practical point of view, because my company employs 350 journalists, and half of them are women, exactly half of them. And when you see who represents our brands in television, on YouTube, in public speeches, outside our editorial office, it's mostly men. It's very hard to talk women into doing it, and I fully understand why. Because it's so often happened, and I've witnessed it, and I've been there myself, that when they are brave enough to do it, they are punished violently, and they regret it. And I've seen women physically sick after being victims of smear campaigns, of deep fakes that were supposed to humiliate them sexually, women who are judged very harshly when it comes to their looks, even though their comments were about politics or social issues, nothing about beauty. Yeah, so that's how it works. It's just it's often criticized that women are not like they could do more if they were more brave, yeah, if they were present everywhere they are invited to, but it just hurts them, you know. And it's like I see it getting more and more brutal, yeah, more and more popular with AI tools, you know, troll campaigns, yeah.
I was even tempted at the beginning to start with this conversation with a question: which one of us has ever gotten some kind of message like I read at the beginning? But I guess we can know the outcome, so I skipped on this thought. So okay, we've covered Greece, we've covered Poland. Marek, would you like to add to us some Slovak or Czech perspective?
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me to this panel. Just very briefly about myself, I indeed consider myself more of an election observer, because I've been observing most of my life, coming from an organization which is a Slovak civic association called Memo 98, established in 98, as the name suggests. Basically, we were monitoring media during the elections all our lives. Situation has changed for us, not only with Ukraine, but before with pandemic, with huge amount of disinformation now spreading throughout our societies. We really couldn't do anything else than just try to at least to understand why is it happening, who is the source, and so on. Ukraine continued, and if I may just say, I think the main reason why I'm on this panel is that we, as an organization, we actually started a project with colleagues from Czech Republic, an organization called Ženy v médiích, Women in Media in Czech, using the methodology by a UK-based organization, Center for Information Resilience, who basically was conducting a lot of projects. We thought it's time to also look into gender issues, because it also became obvious that this is one of the very prominent and very key issues, especially in Slovakia, partially in Czech Republic. So, speaking of Czech Republic and Slovakia, just to give you a context, we analyzed or actually downloaded about 9,000 different posts from a range of platforms. We have also conducted interviews with about 21 Slovak and Czech key politicians, journalists, activists, trying to ask them and to better understand how is it actually to be a female, a woman, and what kind of challenges are there that women in Czech and Slovakia are facing. Without going too much into all the details, we basically realized that really the key moments are certain peaks, like election events, for instance, especially the European Parliament elections 2 years ago was one of the events that was very much, we identified a huge peak of different misogynic disinformation words that appeared, that were mainly promoted by politicians, which was a new feature for us as well. Of course, this was something that was available, and we can see that happening in the let's say outskirts of the society, but not in the mainstream politics. And suddenly, the mainstream politics and politicians themselves became the sources of disinformation and attacking female, mainly politicians, but also journalists. So this was for us a surprise, and something what we realized it's really happening. It's normal. There is difference between Slovakia and Czech Republic. In Slovakia, you can find these elements more in the mainstream media or mainstream sources. Czech Republic was different. Maybe it's changing now a little bit, but maybe I'll just stop here for the moment.
So, Natalia, could you specify what is the difference between online violence in general and gender disinformation? Because I think it can be a little
Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
difference. So online violence is any kind of hurtful behavior towards anyone happening online, right? You know, all of you know this. It can happen just because someone is frustrated, they don't like how you look and what you say, and they will do something not so nice. Or the guy is sending some kind of weird pictures to your messengers and things like that, right? We all know that, unfortunately. By the way, for that, I finally found a hack. I put the date of birth of my father into my profile. No one is sending anything to me now. I recommend you this, really. So, first of all. Second of all, then when we talk about gender disinformation, this is orchestrated, and this will attack your gender identity. This will try to say and inform others around you that you are immoral, that your conduct is very bad, that you are doing something extremely evil, and you know. But especially for women, I think immorality or like massive sexual harassment.
Or lack of qualifications.
Or lack of, but this is all the time, right? In that sense. But you will be ugly, you will be immoral, you will be this or that. And the goal is to, annihilate women in public space, women who are trying to, do their job, do something important for themselves and the society, right? So, and this is not only one-off, this is organized, coordinated, someone most of the time, someone really powerful is behind this. And as a result, because oftentimes it doesn't end just online, it starts online. And the end game is really in offline world, whether it ends up with really not great psychological state of a person, but also in physical attacks. And this is something I've been observing for years now. Some of the persons I know, female journalists, ended up having to leave their birthplace, the place where they were doing their stuff. They had to leave because no one could protect them. So this is a very serious situation, and not just like, because women are very brave and they like to underestimate the situation very often, especially also in Poland this would happen. I remember when I moved back from Balkans to here, and some colleagues would be, okay, this is normal because some idiots are, just sending me messages. This is always a very serious situation and should be taken very seriously.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned powerful people standing behind those campaigns. I have written down this little quote: "Artificial product of anti-Slovak forces." These words were said about the former president Zuzanna Čaputová. They were said by the prime minister of the country. And my question would be, has this phrase been picked up by the Slovak society?
I think to some extent it really left a mark. And the result was, as we heard already, that Zuzana Čaputová has decided really not to run for the second time as a president, or she would have had definitely a very good chance to be re-elected. She was and she is very civilized, very balanced in the speech. She's very well presented Slovakia, and she used to be. And after the really severe campaign that the current government really started conducting against her, but also the previous government, it was just too much pressure on in different ways. Somehow, I think the message was like, she was young, liberal, politicians, well-spoken. Is it possible that she is not a result or product of pro-Western, Soros, whatever you name it, different people who are controlling it? Like, this was the idea behind it. And so, unfortunately, the attack was so massive in so many fronts, from the current government, from opposition, that just she simply, and it's very understandable, she really couldn't probably bear it any longer, being in the office. I think it again started with politicians. That's what I said before. Previously maybe there were different sources of this information. Nowadays, at least in my environment, the politicians, the active mainstream political parties, many of them are actually sources of disinformation and direct attack, which I think is a change, and it's extremely worrisome and has to be named and shamed and mentioned again and again as a main problem. And then the message is being picked up and repeated by different other channels and on different platforms. So, yes.
And how has this campaign been perceived in the country in general?
I mean, of course, she's as a politician, she's still very much respected by a large portion of population. So you cannot say that this is actually going across the board. It was more of a, as you said, there was a clear purpose, basically, eliminate the political opponent just by targeting her, her being a woman, her being abused of being Jewish, her being abused of different other names. I think she left. She's still very respected, but it's an example, unfortunately, worrying example, increasing self-censorship, any women deciding to go into politics as a warning symbol. Maybe I would be another victim, unfortunately.
Basically, the same happened to Sanna Marin, the Prime Minister of Finland, after the very famous video of her just having fun on a party with some friends. That was leaked, and then she was accused of like everything, taking drugs and everything. And yeah, the same happened. She has withdrawn from the public life. But Thanos, to what extent are traditional values are being weaponized in Greece?
I would say pretty much the same as they're weaponized here in Poland. The reason is this. I think, at least I know Greece, but I think also Poland is quite a religious country. Greeks are Christian Orthodox. Here, the Polish population here are Catholic. The Catholic Church is quite strict on issues of morality. So is the Orthodox Church. And having those stereotypes going back centuries, it means that they are in our DNA now. In my presentation, I had a small picture of Mary Magdalene.
You can use it.
Oh, why didn't you say so?
Sorry.
Can someone turn it on, please? All right, and let me... And how do you go forward? Great, yeah. So as you can see, this is a painting from the 16th century. This is Mary Magdalene. It has many symbolisms inside it, but I will focus that she looks like a woman who is, let's say, a bit morally, I won't say corrupt, a bit light. The dates at the bottom, the first is 591. It was the year that Pope Gregory I, I think, declared that this woman was actually a prostitute back in the days of Jesus. That wasn't the case. There's no mention of this in the Gospels, but in any case, it became dogma. And it took 13th, 14th centuries until 1961 that the Catholic Church decided that this was a wrong interpretation. It was, I think, Pope Paul VII that said that this is wrong. It's a wrong interpretation of the scripture, so he said that is not the case. However, we all know today, we all have in our heads that this woman was a prostitute. And it symbolized and it deeply influenced the culture, the art of medieval Western Europe, mostly, not Eastern Europe, that this woman was a prostitute. And that all women, by extension, should be treated as potential prostitutes. So this stereotype, although it was debunked by the church itself, it still exists today. Most of us have in our mind that she was a prostitute, not the person that is actually mentioned in the gospel. So these historical stereotypes go back many centuries, and they present women as weak, irrational, dependent, indecisive, less suited for leadership, and of course that they have lower moral standards, and that's the most important part of the understanding that the society has about women. Morality is the most important thing. A woman must be chaste in every society, actually, but especially in heavily influenced by religious societies like mine, yours, maybe some other country. And so that goes on and will still go on for many centuries to come.
And Ola, can we say that gender disinformation intersects with anti-LGBTQ narratives?
Yeah, for sure. They both go parallelly, usually, and I've seen both like having a huge impact on public persons like women, journalists, activists, actors, even. Yeah, so definitely. I would add to what Thanos said that what Catholic Church, how they influence on our culture is not only like in moral, like because a moral impact is something like positive. It can sound like something positive, but what they expect women to be is sexually clean. And this is a very, very common topic in nowadays internet. So there are like whole like groups of influencers who are like trying to earn money basically on this trend, and also many women who are being ridiculed, who are being shamed, who are being excluded by this stereotype. So it's still very very strong in our culture.
Natalia, would you like to add some point of view to the Balkans? How do they fit into this?
So I will refer to the Western Balkan region because I've spent quite some time there also working as a journalist. Mostly very patriarchal countries. And I will say, in terms of my personal experience, the best experience I've ever had at work was at Al Jazeera, where I've never, ever encountered any situation of verbal or any other type of harassment. What is more, whenever we would go to shot some, stories outside, the CEO of Al Jazeera would call us and ask, hey, are your colleagues doing fine? Are they okay doing their job? Like, are you feeling well with them? And this was something extraordinary. So the CEO of the company is calling ordinary journalists. And by the way, he was so dedicated to outdoors. He had the smallest office out of all the offices at Al Jazeera offices. And he would do that effort like, hey, like, tell me, like, what's going on there? Like, are you
Why
fine?
was he concerned about it?
Just to check, because he introduced anti-discriminatory programs, and he wanted to know who should go again.
No, I get it.
Some really had to go again. Not in my case, though. And other than that, I want to stress one thing. Because we always struggle a little bit with patriarchal culture as being something extremely negative. After my Balkan experience, I've changed my perspective. I don't think it has to be necessarily evil. It's how we operate in this, and do we have respect to one another and our roles? The way we establish them. Doesn't matter if it's matriarchy, patriarchy, whatever you want. Everyone should be able to decide the way they want to live. But if there is a disrespect there, the imbalance of powers, then these difficult situations show up. And just yesterday, for the purpose of our meeting, I read the latest survey done in Serbia in 2025 after our report in Poland. And for the reference, I just need to explain. When Zamenhof Institute was publishing a report on sexual harassment of Polish journalists in 2020. I got some voices from Serbia, from my colleagues. What are you doing? What are you talking about? There is nothing like this. And here in Serbia, we don't know about anything. And I said, like, yeah, right. So 5 years later, they did a similar survey to ours, and it turns out something very similar to what we observed in Poland, that more than 80% of journalists, female journalists, experience sexual harassment at work, were forced, not 80%, but some percent, around 5 to 6, which is close to Polish results, were forced to have sexual intercourse because, at work with their bosses. So we, so different problems, right? One is disinformation, orchestrated campaigns and then what women face at work, unfortunately, from their colleagues and bosses. So this is happening everywhere. This is not a separate situation, whether you are in UK, in Serbia, in Poland, anywhere in the world, unfortunately. Which tells a lot about the systems, you know, even liberal or patriarchal, it doesn't matter. Women still, you know, encounter the same problem.
Well, one thing has changed. We have new platforms that are enabling this. And so, Ola, is this bias by design, or is there something going on in the matrix itself?
Matrix, definitely, because I wouldn't think, and maybe I don't want to think that it's biased because of somebody's political stance. Although some of the bosses of big technological companies definitely are misogynists, and we know it. But it's more influenced by the way they earn their money now, and I think it's like good to focus when you analyze like big geopolitical events or like the markets that are growing or collapsing, just to follow the money, the interests, and then you see that it's just this is a business model that we are facing now that is growing, rapidly growing year by year by creating outrage. And now we're talking about women because it's like a huge part of what is happening. But this is a business model that is earning money on children getting addicted, on migrants being hated, on like any minority, like LGBTQ minority that is being like harassed online. So any outrage or any kind of unpleasant emotions that we always have in our life, like anxiety, loneliness, any vulnerability, is being monetized at the moment. So this is the huge problem we are facing. So when we for ages had this problem in our society, that there were people who struggled with aggression issues, yeah, and it was like for years the easiest way to like release some tension was to kick a dog or find another physically weaker person to hit. Yeah, that's why we had like so much home violence that for years, for ages was accepted. But things started to change. They started to change like hundreds of years ago, but in recent decades it was like it started to be unacceptable. And it wasn't, there was no tolerance anymore for like admitting that you can be aggressive towards your wife or children. And at the same time, when seeing the situation getting better in like real life, we were seeing more and more of it online in this lawless territory. I know there are, in theory, there are some rules, but in fact, there is this huge acceptance of humiliating people, of treating people violently. Because I'm not talking only about criticizing, but I'm talking about the sexual harassment that is getting more and more like. It's everywhere. People, I can tell you about my own example because I'm like not. I don't feel like good about broadcasting my colleagues' stories, but I've had online photographs of myself, like in some sexual situations that they were like fake, obviously. But I was so ashamed. I was like. I couldn't even like comfortably talk about it at work because I just thought that there must be some guilt on my side. Yeah, this is how you silenced women for ages, and now it's just getting more and more popular because somebody is earning money on it, and that's what we are facing.
Yeah, deepfakes are one of the greatest threats in disinformation right now. So I would ask you, Tanos, because you have researched a lot the Russian network Pravda. Very ironical name, to be honest. Obvious to everyone who speaks Slavic language, because Pravda means the truth. And so, are the Russians?
It's related.
Yeah, but did they evolve or did they start to use AI in their network?
When this thing came to our attention for the first time, it was back in 2014, I think, we saw a growing network of websites with the name Pravda and being either in Greek, in English, in Polish, in in all of the languages of the EU and beyond now. They were working by using AI, and by that I mean that they automatically translated text from some sources of questionable origin, of course, and they were dumping it on the internet. The content was disinformation 100%, and it was of poor quality. So we were scratching our heads because we couldn't figure out why they went in all this trouble to create all those websites that no one visited. Zero visibility. No one was clicking on them. And we came to find out much later that they were actually using all those websites to infect the large language models. And by that I mean ChatGPT, Gemini, and many others. And of course, this network is also pushing gender disinformation. Now, the example on the right, unfortunately, it's in Greek, but it's supposed to be showing the daughter of Navalny, Alexei Navalny, Dasha is her name, at a party in Washington. In any case, and you see the dress and everything, and it's quite provocative and so on. That was picked up by many others. It was catchy, as you can see. You see, beautiful woman and all that. It was catchy, and it was spread all over the internet, and not just in Greece, of course. That's just the Greek edition of the story, we had to debunk it, of course. Pretty much every organization in Europe debunked this claim. But it shows that something as silly as this claim became viral. So, in any case, the purpose of this network is it's not directed to people. It's directed to large language models, AI chatbots, to put it plainly. And I've actually done some experiments, and it so happened by total coincidence to make an experiment about a Russian singer who is living in Cyprus now, by the way. And they were posting about her all the time, that she is corrupt. She's a critic of Putin, by the way. She left Russia because she didn't feel comfortable there. When I asked ChatGPT generic information about her, I was taking results from the Pravda network. I was getting only that. This lady happens to be like the Madonna of the Soviet Union and Russia later on. She was very famous, and that's why she was targeted. In any case, it's quite an efficient propaganda tool, and it has run many campaigns and has done so quite successfully, I would say.
Very successfully. There was a study that said that 1 in 3 results when you ask ChatGPT about war in Ukraine, for example, 1 in 3 results would have gathered information from the Pravda network, so like 30% accuracy, very high. But maybe, just maybe, AI can be also used as a force of good. You're laughing, so let's start with you.
Well, in theory, it could be. Yeah. We could if we talked only about technology here, about theory, we could probably list a long number of examples that AI could actually do the job to help us, to help the whole internet to be more truthful, to create less polarization, to detect hate speech, obviously, but who would benefit from it, apart from society, democracy? I mean about business. Who would earn money? That's why, at the moment, AI tools are being used to create more and more disinformation, or to help it be distributed more quickly. What is also very visible at the moment is that it's getting more and more personalized. We see at the moment this very huge hype around AI-created influencers. Many companies realize that you can produce more and more ads when you do not actually hire a real person, but you create your own ideal person. And those influencers are being personalized to share your values, the values of this particular customer, to make them happy. And apparently for many people it's not a problem, even if they see that they are being served only something fake. They are happy with being in this comfortable environment with all the values, all the beauty that they actually admire being provided for them. So this is what is happening at the moment. So AI is when it comes to disinformation, I'm not I use AI tools, yeah, but when it comes to disinformation, it's at the moment not helping. It could, but it's not. I mean, for example, in my company, we use AI tools to, for example, moderate more quickly. But you do it, and you use some customers because of that, yeah. So you have to just face it that it's if you want to have your product better. To improve quality, you just have to reduce some kind of traffic. You have to get rid of some page views, engagement, because this kind of engagement is wrong. But when I see those big companies we are talking about now, like Meta, Google, YouTube, for example, TikTok, they are not I can't see any real doubts there. They're creating more and more steer, not quality.
Marek, help me out here. Do you see any automated tools that could help in your work with detecting disinformation?
I think I'm completely with you. You definitely could use them. But the question is really how is it at the moment benefiting anyone? I mean, for the tools and also platforms, we mentioned them, I think the issue is that the owners respond to pressure. That's just one thing that we see, and we can actually see one by one. An example is really the European Commission trying to do and put pressure within the European Union space. It's really working. Recent example, for instance, is the elections in Hungary. Sorry, now coming back to my observer role, you could see that actually really massive abuse by Orban's party, abuse of online space actually stopped and wasn't possible simply because as the end of October, the political advertising on the big platforms was banned within the European Union. And really that particular machinery lost a lot of space. So I think this works, and it definitely is the way to go forward. I think institutional pressure, EU was mentioned very often, is definitely working. I think the pressure should be coming from all the different ways. Me being an NGO person has certain responsibility, which is limited, but definitely is about putting pressure on my own government and then also on the European Union, as we are all members of the European Union, actually, to make the Europe a place where we want to live in, and also our children to live in the future. So I think this is definitely the way forward. Put pressure, name and shame, explain, not to give up within, let's say, this space.
We will talk about the solutions in a little while, but when we are getting there, Natalia, I would like to ask you, according to the name of our panel, have you seen any chilling effect in Poland, any withdrawal of public women figures from the public life in Poland?
Well, I definitely can observe I'm not sure if I should name these people because they're not here. But in terms of our report, so off the record, published 3 years ago, Karolina Rogaska, actually, a journalist, Newsweek journalist who was our interlocutor, and back in time she shared her story of sexual abuse. First it was anonymous, then 2 years later, and I know her path towards it, so I think I'm allowed to share. It was the opposite thing. So once she was able to share this with us, first anonymously, then it was published, then she'd observed the reactions and everything that happened later on. For those who are not familiar with the story, after the report was published, there was a big debate in the public. Many media organizations also supported us really strongly on that. And I think every single person who shared this story, first in a big fear, 2 years later, they were in a completely different place in their life. So this was very encouraging. And I think the most recent story of Karolina is that she really came out with the story officially, publicly, under her name and surname, explaining lies that were, again, being spread online. So this is one of the reasons why it's worth of doing this kind of things, right? Then the opposite thing happens when a person feels alone, feels abandoned, feels attacked in the public, and absolutely, I don't think anyone, even the strongest person in this country, can be immune to that situation.
Ola, I know that there are similar stories in our newspapers. So can you tell a little bit about how media companies can protect their female journalists?
It's difficult. I believe that the most important thing that you should do is just to be aware and be with them, just to from the psychological point of view. So never abandon them, never let them be left alone. So they should always have bosses, colleagues, just to be able to talk to. The other thing is legal help. So I'm representing a big company, big media company, and we employ lawyers who are experts in those fields like hate speech, deep fakes, smear campaigns, and they actually help. But it lasts so long. It's such a struggle. That it's hard for me. I cannot recommend it to every media company because media are under a very big pressure from big technological companies. At the moment, for years, there are mass layoffs in traditional media every year. Yeah, in the whole industry, all over the world. So they are cutting costs because ad revenues go basically year by year, more of them go to big technological companies. At the moment, it's about 80% of ad revenue going to 5 companies in the world. By the way, they usually don't pay taxes in the countries that they are involved when they actually do this business. So I can tell you what I'm doing, but it's not my advice for smaller companies, because to hire lawyers who work for a long time and they actually do not achieve anything, because what they can do is just report such situations of hatred, of deepfakes to the police. Sometimes police does something, most often they don't. But what we achieve here is only this feeling of not being left alone. It's important. It's important because this helps the journalist not to be traumatized. So it's important, so we do it. But it's not. I've never in my career seen a result like a person actually being punished for tormenting my journalist. It never happened. What I witnessed recently was one of my journalists got a bodyguard from the police. Because the hatred campaign that started with just calling her names tend to be like more violent in the end. Like she was getting like actual threats. So there was this bodyguard following her for some time, and yeah, so the lawyers work. We also provide psychological support. So that there are those meetings for journalists when they like get this help. They are provided with the psychological help, but you know, it comes back anyway. So after each time they are being like assaulted, I observe them having those, you know, crises. So they stop writing. They are like more fragile, you know. They avoid difficult topics. So I cannot say that it's a success, you know. And also there are many women who get like misogynistic comments like every day, although they do not report it, because how could you report something like being called ugly and fat like basically every day, below every video that you make professionally, by some anonymous trolls, sometimes not anonymous, sometimes real guys that actually you can check that they are like...
One of the problems with gender disinformation is the fact that sometimes even the victims cannot tell that they are being targeted with it. That they cannot define that this is organized and structured, and they think, oh, maybe I wrote something, maybe my text wasn't as good as it should be. So that's one of the difficulties with measuring it and trying to define it and, you know, put your finger on it.
Yeah, also, they just want to focus on their job to be done well, yeah, and not about like targeting a person who calls them ugly, yeah. They try to focus on what's right, but at the same time, there is this, you know, noise in the background that is like disturbing them, and male colleagues don't have this problem.
So wherever and whenever there's a problem, there has to be a solution somewhere. So let's talk about the legal framework and possible solutions. So Marek has started saying that we have some solutions in Europe that can help us. And Thanos, I would like to ask you, because we do have the DSA, Digital Services Act, that is supposed to...
Someone left with this. I don't know who, anyway. So the DSA.
Yeah. So can DSA help us with this kind of problem?
There's not a single mention in the DSA of the phrase gendered disinformation. The DSA is about systemic risks. That's how they call it, systemic risks. However, gender disinformation can be considered a systemic risk. The DSA is trying to take the platforms and put their 2 feet in one shoe. Like tell them practically to better moderate yourselves, because it's a mess. And if you don't, you will be fined. It's a great initiative. The DSA is an act that is very, very useful, and it's now in, I think, every EU member legal system. It's incorporated, I think, in everyone.
We are still waiting.
I'm not sure about Poland.
No, we are still waiting.
You must be the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Cyprus was, but no, you're the last one. So the
Tough subject.
So it puts the platforms, you know, understand they must preventively identify, evaluate, and block all those systemic risks, which include any type of online harm, provided that it is illegal. That's very important, under the local law. If, for instance, gendered disinformation was illegal by law here in Poland, Facebook would have to block it, or if it couldn't, someone else would. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. So they have to mitigate the risks, they have to be transparent and accountable, because researchers must have access to their data to see how they're actually doing. And it's trying, of course, to empower the persons that are affected or might be affected in order to be better prepared and better protected. Let me show you this. So the DSA is not a truth police. It's not a silver bullet, right? Let's clarify that from the beginning. It does not ban all kinds of disinformation. It practically doesn't ban disinformation as a word in general. It's not an instant solution because you can just click a button and make something go away. And of course, it will never replace media literacy in terms of teaching people what gender disinformation is, how not to be idiots and treat the opposite sex by sending things that they shouldn't be sending. So, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. I mean, we're living in crazy times. Just imagine that we take a stroll here and outside, and someone takes down their pants and shows you their manhood, right? It would be crazy. But when you are online, you can get in your inbox all the time, those lovely pictures of things that you never asked for. On the other hand, the platforms are made accountable, and they are forced to take action to identify and mitigate these risks. Transparency, we said that already, and empowering, we said also that. So, in practical terms, each country's digital service coordinators, I don't know which one is here in Poland, are mandated to, and ordered, if you like, to find organizations which they will evaluate and they will designate them as trusted flaggers. I don't know if you've heard this term before. No? Yes? No?
Yes, but please tell.
So, trusted flaggers are responsible, but not paid by the European Union, which is something that it's a whole different can of worms. But they're not paid by anyone, but they are designated and have the authority when they come across illegal content, I stress the word illegal content, to report it to the platforms, and the platforms must check their report in priority, prioritize it in relation to your report that you are as an individual, right, as an individual user. And they must take appropriate action. My organization is a trusted flagger in Greece. There are not many in Europe in general because no one pays. But for instance, if they see, let's say, pornographic content or a deep fake of a female individual in a weird situation, they can report it, and Meta, for instance, Meta, will have to check it immediately. Immediately is a relative term, because it could be from 2 days to 1 week. Go figure. If you do it as a user, let's say you see yourself, your own self, as being naked and so on, you will report it, but the reply that you will get sometime later, a week to 1 month, will say it's automated, and will say we didn't find anything wrong with this video. Yes, thank you very much. That's because
Classic.
yeah, no, that's how it works. There are so millions, hundreds of millions of users. I'm taking Meta just as an example, right? There are, I don't know, 300 million accounts, 400 million accounts. I don't know how many here in the EU alone. They can't possibly have so many people to watch, to look after every report from users. However, the trusted flaggers, our reports, are seen by a human handler, not by a machine. This means that the algorithm they use is totally stupid. It's useless. I can say that from personal experience. It's useless. I mean, I've reported hardcore pornographic content, right? It was being used for a scam. I reported personally, and I said, I'll wait and see when they will take it down. They didn't take it down, but after a month, I submitted it as a trusted flagger and they removed it. No big deal. So first of all, the platforms must be held accountable and they must take action. I don't care if they will have to improve their algorithms or hire more people to moderate their content, right? I mean, it's not my job. I'm not getting paid from anyone to do the moderation for them.
Recently, they've been scaling down the moderators' numbers, so that's it.
That's not gonna work out well.
We are getting closer to the moment when we will handle the
May I say
microphones to
something?
you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something about solutions. I think that gender disinformation should be placed in any law in EU, every law, every country's law, as a strategic, defense issue, defense and also interference issue. It should be, placed as something that we have to act upon immediately. It should name exactly the forces that should act upon this, including military, in my opinion. Seriously, because if someone is to be killed or seriously endangered, if our police cannot do that, we have army. I'm not joking. And, we've lost several journalists in Europe within the last 10 years. Daphne Galicia, Kuciak. We had, in Ukraine before the war, we had journalists harassed, attacked, and killed on multiple occasions. I don't think we should bear, this burden anymore alone. And as Ola said, the cost of handling this situation in that very lonely matter, is so massive. This shouldn't be placed only on the, publicist, because the resources that come for that organized, targeted actions are so massive. Not any single media can deal with that alone. So, in my opinion, this should be just one of the critical, risks that all the security forces should take very seriously. So this is the first thing. And the second thing, I work with Google. I train media on many occasions, and I'm very happy I can do and perform that role. But what I wouldn't like to see in our reality is Google or YouTube. I'm not even mentioning Meta because this is another story of irresponsible behavior. But I don't want to see platforms deciding what's ethical or not ethical. I really don't. With all the respect to everyone I work with, these are very smart people. Not any kind of platform shouldn't be deciding this. There are people who can do ethics, and these ethics should also be put in place, and they should be obliged to obey that, but not be decisive like what the ethics mean. And I think we have now a loophole in that idea, what gender disinformation action is, how to spot it, how to understand what's happening online, and how to act upon this. Because the tools are in the place. We should just, sit and talk, hey, who is responsible, who writes the law, and, how, and then the platforms will have to act upon it, But they should not decide about ethics. They should be put in front of the ethics and said, this is how you behave, this is law in this place. So this is my point only on that too.
Sure,
Sorry.
So many voices. Yeah, go ahead, Ola.
One more solution to make it happen. I also think that algorithms should be transparent, and some behaviors, some patterns in those algorithms should be illegal. It's like you cannot put toxic stuff into our food. Yeah, you can. In European Union, at least, there is a lot of things that you cannot. It's forbidden to put in our food because it would be poisonous. It would be cancerogenic. It's like wrong, yeah, and we agree on it. And when it comes to platforms, we, as a society, as lawmakers, we agree that we see that they make teenagers anxious. We see that they make senior citizens sleepless. We see that people quarrel too much there. We see that democracy suffers because of that. We see Russian disinformation being spread all over it. And experts know how those algorithms work. So it's possible to name them, but we do not actually see them clearly. And if we saw them clearly, if it was necessary to show them, this would be much easier to navigate it later, to just name the things that are forbidden.
Yeah, that's one thing. And Thanos, you wanted to add something?
There is a problem in proving legally what constitutes gender disinformation and what doesn't. Okay, we have common sense, but when I have to tell which law this piece of content breaks, to Meta, for instance, I have to be very careful on how I put it. You mentioned Russian disinformation. It is specifically mentioned, not Russian, but interference from third countries, is mentioned in the DSA, in my mandate, but I've never achieved into submitting a piece of content and having it taken down, which is Russian propaganda, and it can be proved where it started and how it got here, because there is no clear law. You know, the legal framework is a bit gray on that, on those issues. Disinformation is a very generic word. And it has different meanings on gender disinformation, on state-sponsored disinformation, on health disinformation. Good luck in discerning all those things and explaining to the platforms what's illegal based on law and what isn't.
So I think all of these are very important changes, but we as citizens don't necessarily have much control over them. But there may be one thing, Marek, maybe there is some educational reform that we could introduce to help mitigate this problem.
I was very tentatively listening to the previous panel, which was there before ours, which there was a lot of really good vibe and energy actually coming from the audience, I think also from the podium. So, I mean, we as an organization, we're also doing project educating seniors in how to deal with disinformation in Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia. And I think one of the really issues that pops up during that project was an importance of integrity and importance of education, critical thinking, asking questions like real. The question is the responsibility of platforms, but every one of us, every one of you is responsible for the image we create, share, everything. So I think it starts with individual responsibility and integrity with schools, with really just really pursuing what is truth, what is objective, what is moral, and so on. So I think this is what we can do, all citizens. Speaking from the perspective of NGO, we are educating people on this. So this is, I think, one thing. But another example would be also creating spaces for neutral discussions. I think that the problem which we had during our project was how to actually make sure that the message we would like to share reaches the audience which is, let's say, outside of our regular bubbles. How to do that? That's the biggest challenge of these days. I mean, where are the neutral spaces where we can communicate? We try to overcoming a little bit with creating a positive message that the platforms themselves would pick up because it was good, it was humorous, it was interesting, it was just trying to make it really viral. And sometimes we failed, sometimes we succeeded with good examples of showing not only what is bad, but what actually could be better than what you have this. And I mean, I don't want to sound too over-optimistic, but I think that in this way, there is also a way a little bit where everyone can chip in a little bit with whatever the powers he has to share the positive examples and actually try to make the world a better place.
We have 15 more minutes, and I can go on because I still have a lot more questions, but maybe there are some questions from you guys. And I see that there are.
So it's not really a question, it's more of a bit of a throwback. I wanted to go to the beginning of this panel when we were talking about the reasons why women might be like harassed, why there might be some assaults on like the female part of the society. And there's one thing that we're skipping over. The subconscious need of a man to be in control, because we men subconsciously are aware that women are dangerous in a way. They have a voice, and we've always known it because there were great women leaders in the past, and they still are. I'm not saying it in a mean way. I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm not saying it's negative. I mean that women have a voice and men are afraid of it because for years we've been kind of in charge. We are also kind of aware that when women get in charge, they can overtake us. So the only reason we can actually defend ourselves is by force, by using force to silence them. And now I also don't mean that every man is like that. It's more of a defensive strategy that men are subconsciously using because we are kind of afraid. And I kind of hesitated. I wanted to say it in the moment the topic was moved. I kind of hesitated because I know it is a bit controversial to say that. We are aware of that. I am aware of that. That it is strange to say that, but we men are kind of afraid subconsciously. We are not aware of it. We will not admit it because we don't want to seem weak. But we are afraid of women, and women, they have the power to control us. Women are stronger in like mentally. They have the strength to manipulate a man. It has also been proven in the past. And today we are moving away from the past. We're moving away from the physical dangers from our side, from the man's side, put on the women. We are moving away from it, and now I could see it on my own that women, like, for example, my mom. When there's like some kind of discussion that goes bad, and there's like an angry discussion, I can see that my mom kind of seems to go forward, get more mad at my dad when there's like a very serious topic going on. And my dad has toned down. He has been kind of violent in the past, I have to admit it, but it's in our subconsciousness. When we get into the argument, we get violent. This is how it works. We lose our mind. We become more we act on instinct, and that's where it becomes like we are trying to tone the man down so the woman has also like some voice, but we men are afraid of being silenced by women as well. So now you're gaining the voice, you're getting the attention, but we are also toning down. And now we are addressing the problems of the past. We are also, of course, addressing the current problems, because I'm not saying it's the problem of the past. The women still are being silenced down. But it's a subconscious need for a woman to be heard, and subconscious need of a man to defend his own position. Because once we let women take over, well, we are afraid to lose just the control. It is subconscious. We are not controlling it. As I said, I don't mean it in a bad way. I say that it's our mental, our brain that just forces us to do it subconsciously. And it is something that we have to take account on, because we cannot forget that we should be equal in a way, but we just cannot control it.
Thank you for that voice. Gentlemen, would you like to comment on behalf of your gender?
Some men are maybe insecure, okay, but that's why, how do they call this toxic masculinity guy? this Andrew Tate and bullshit Tate and whatever exists to feed on their, to give food to their insecurity. In any case, I don't see a problem here. I don't know, maybe someone else knows better.
Can I comment on it briefly? It's a very interesting topic that you mentioned. And I actually admire like the openness in which you talk. Like really, it's really good to think about it. But I think that our problem as a society is that we have never, like in history, had this time of peaceful partnership. So it has always been this like somebody was like feeling insecure. So maybe when we figure it out how to make this internet environment secure for like everybody, like at least like to have the rules that are now outside of the internet. Maybe we will just get used to. Maybe your generation will be the one that will show that we can cooperate because it is possible. Like in the workplace, diverse teams are much more efficient. It just works better. Yeah, we make better decisions when we actually are different, when we talk about those differences, and when we balance it. It's the same in families. It's like in the end, like this constant power play doesn't pay off. What pays off is like communicating in a way that you do. So naming our insecurities and just, having other people to help us, So I think your approach is like really impressive, yeah.
Just quickly, you just exactly took my idea. I'm being an observer, very often I run the team of up to 15 people. Usually, when it's a mixed team of men and women, male and female, it works better. There's biggest diversity. Wherever I end up with either male or female, I suffer because there is something missing in the thing. So diversity is definitely the answer. And the respect also, obviously. If you're respecting each other, that's where it starts. I think the discussion is possible there. But thank you very much for sharing your story.
Hello, thank you for hosting this discussion. From a more academic background, as a researcher, first of all, it needs to be operationalized, the terms misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, because, again, as the speakers noted, specifically in Polish, there's no distinction. And this is what is vital when it comes to actually legislation, which I argue in what I produce is nearly impossible logistically, because the inference is on proof, because everybody commits misinformation. Gazeta Wyborcza, everybody, I do it. Misinformation is unavoidable. I even misinform my wife sometimes because I took out the trash, darling, and then I quickly run, take out the trash, and she's none the wiser. So misinformation is just a fact of life as human beings. The trick is proving that somebody is intentionally. The intentionality is the trick. And that requires a lot of investigation, a lot of man hours that is simply inefficient compared to how easy it is to commit acts of disinformation. So it's a losing battle. So we have defined the topic. So ontologically, disinformation is also just a manifestation of power. It is a tool of power. Wherever there is power, there will be these things. So can we eliminate it? No, we would have to become an anarchist society with no state, with no tools of violence. So while I advocate for that, it is not yet possible. So what are the possible solutions for the media landscape that I've heard? And they're very interesting. But what I would also like to advocate against these sort of attempts to do it from within the social media. I'm a critic of Silicon Valley, of big tech. And the possible alternatives that have to be discussed, especially now when there's political will growing within Europe against the United States. More and more people, just recently, again, misinformation was spread, but in a different context, that France was introducing Linux, the French government. There was a post, very much liked, a million engagement. However, it wasn't the French government, it was just one tiny department, et cetera, et cetera. But this is an illustration that there's a growing sentiment that we should move away from these texts. So I would posit that perhaps we should talk about a nationalized social media platform of the EU with, for official language and official communication. So the police department in Poland doesn't have to, on X, report that a criminal is on the loose and stuff like that. But it's an official place where, because regulation, in essence, is of currently how the internet is structured, and this is a whole other debate on the structure of the internet and late-stage capitalism, quantification of the attention economy, et cetera, and that it's actually the house is stacked against us, right? From that perspective, so we have to change the paradigm. We have to not think of maybe go back to Internet 1.0, maybe rethink the whole structure of how we communicate online, anonymity, etc. And this is my final point. Was while I'm not specifically a relation to gender, my colleagues are, and we discuss how disinformation as a tool of power perpetuates patriarchy, etc., etc. But that's just a manifestation. It's more another aspect. But the interesting question of anonymity. So in a study, well, I did an ethnography of 4chan looking back at old posts from the early 2000s, and it was this trend of anonymous. You're not a woman, you're not a man, you're anonymous. There's no outside identity that is projected into these online spaces. And what happened is the othering, it actually became even more patriarchal, because in pure anonymous situations, the assumption is that you're a straight white male. So even though you're communicating anonymously with someone, the assumption is that the other, who's anonymous, is this dominant group of in power. So the situation is extremely complex, and I advocate that, and I recommend that we should start thinking a bit more revolutionary and radical than working from within the system, trying to regulate, trying to do anti-disinformation campaigns, pre-bunking, debunking, because even though while they're effective, 88% of all users who participate still go back to the old trends. It's the same with cybersecurity. No matter how much you educate, the structure of the internet is built in such a way that it's just easier, more convenient. People are by nature lazy, cognitively, and in many aspects I'm lazy as well. So I would just like to encourage and posit a more open, more radical approaches towards solutions regarding the topic. Thank you.
Here's a thought for you. We can do it like China or Russia and ban Facebook, X. I would love that, actually. And whichever other platform is not being moderated correctly. Establishing a transnational EU platform is not realistic. Give me $500 million, euros, or Swiss francs, doesn't matter, and I can build one for you, and it can be moderated more properly. The question is that these things are here to stay, and we have to adapt and proceed, unfortunately, hand in hand, by protecting those that need protection.
I only wanted to add that a Swedish company is doing something like that at the moment. They are going to launch this product in June, I guess. But the problem probably will be that they are not going to have addictive algorithms. They are not going to let trolls or bots. So it will be only real people. And we will just see if the consumers around Europe will really switch from those, addictive tools that we are scrolling all the time to the truthful distribution of content that is actually making our lives better. We'll see. I'm doubtful.
Judging by the things that happened to Mastodon or Blue Sky, that people have not migrated in mass to those platforms, I'm highly skeptical.
Maybe two things have to happen at the same time. Like we have to see those algorithms, ban addictive, polarizing, like harmful things that are happening to us online, and then there will be like a free competition. We'll just, you know, those platforms then will have like at least like maybe more equal chances on the market.
We still have, yeah.
Yes, maybe you as experts on disinformation will have some advice for me. Because for the last 2 years, I've been countering disinformation. Actually, well, not on gender. I've been countering disinformation on dogs and cats. I've been doing it with 2 visible results. One, that in January this year, Facebook deleted my account. And the other, when I took part in a competition where you had to write a text on media freedom and disinformation, my text won the first prize. But still, I've been unable to get the message across to any media. I'm Polish. So basically, I wonder if you have any advice on me, like how to counter disinformation more efficiently. I've contacted several media that actually propagate all those lies that I've been trying to counter, the lies that are propagated by nominally pro-animal organizations. And all those lies get through to the media. But when my analysis, where I have all the facts and the number of stray animals that is exaggerated 366 times for specific purposes, and I just can't get it through. And also, as I said, Facebook completely deleted without any warning my account. Not all those people that I had been reporting. So what can you say to that?
I'm gonna let you in a little secret between you and me. If something is very good to be true, it's not. I'm talking about disinformation now. Don't believe it. The other secret is, if you see something that is causing you anger, fear, any kind of strong emotion, drop it. If you see, for instance, you mention cats and dogs. I'm also a cat lover. You have no idea. So if I see a post, no, I love them, okay, I admit. Anyway, what I was saying is if you see a post that is showing a cat that's being allegedly shot by someone, that will cause you anger, it will cause me anger, right? I will be pissed off. But I will take a step back and say, hold on a second, let me check if this thing it really happened. Because it is the emotions that I'm feeling right now are clouding my judgment. So I will wait. So whatever causes strong emotions, especially negative ones, take a step back. And if you see something that's too good to be true, then take 2 steps back.
I have a very quick question. I think just maybe last one in this discussion. We have a lot of young women, young girls, students who are participating as audience here in this panel. And I just want to ask the panelists, as you have talked a lot about harassment and all of the other difficult things that happen to women who are working in public as journalists or as politicians, what will be one key takeaway or maybe 2 key takeaways, maybe 2 key action points that you would like to give them as they finish the school, finish the university, and go on to live their lives and probably become public speakers or journalists or politicians and just live in the public doing the work, what would you like to tell them, having all of this experience and having heard all of these difficult things that have happened to you? Is there anything that you would like to tell them? Share maybe a piece of advice or just like a key takeaway that they can take with them after this panel.
Yeah, I have two. Scroll less. So do not expose yourself to this amount of hatred. Do not let the algorithms take your life from you. So control the time you spend on social platforms, as long as they look like now, because it's a dangerous place for your mental health. And second thing, when you start your career, when you do things publicly, never hide when you are hurt. So look for the allies, go to your peers, go to your colleagues, to your bosses, ask for help. So never stay alone when attacked.
Natalia?
As long as you are not a public figure, I highly recommend that you change the date of your birth. Wherever you show up, it really works magic. So women after 40 years old and higher, they're really invisible. Nobody will harass you, I promise you. I've tested this for the last 6 months. It works. So my father would have been 65 now. Nobody's, writing to me stupid things now. And so this is the first time. For the time being, I have no other solutions. People are just as they are. Second thing, I can't stress enough how important it is that the moment this thing happened to you, especially when you are a public figure, you don't really hide what Jozola said. But there is no other way. Just never shut up. Never do that. Because once you do it, it will be very hard for you to go back, So first of all, no shutting up, and then really look for allies. There is no better thing. I can't tell you how magical thing happened to our colleague Karolina Rogaska. Obviously, this is not the end of her story, but she transformed, I think, within 2 years since she really told her story in secret, on a secret meeting. And we were pretty sure this will never come out. She came out with her name and surname on her own 2 years later. It's very healing when you tell this story to someone. And and then whenever you can, support another person when you see something like that is happening. Give your support and voice this out, because for too long we've been pretending this is not happening. When we published Off the Record, I had some voices in Poland saying okay, what's new here? We all know this. Yeah, and you don't do anything. We have to start acting. And, simple act of support. Sometimes it's just, I can see you. I can see what's going on. And this is not okay. It's really enough, okay? So never turn blind eye. That's it.
Just two things, maybe. One would be just drawing from the interviews which we conducted with journalists, female journalists. They said very often they really suffered before they actually shared with also male colleagues how they feel. And another colleague mentioned this divide between male and female world. The thing is that we sometimes don't understand how we feel about certain things unless we really explain it. So what I'm trying to say, if you feel a certain way, try to make sure that the other person understands it. Sometimes it's not so obvious just to explain the feelings, and that's the first thing for the other person, maybe to become a bit more empathic and understanding what's going on. And the second thing is, I think, the real friendship. You both mentioned it, and it's also, I think, very important from what we have done, having colleagues supporting you or real friends, not only virtual, but real friends, being with you and being there for you.
And with that, do we have time for one? Outside. And with that, thank you so much. Thank you to my great panelists. It was great having you here and talking to you. And thank you for great inspiring questions.
I also wanted to thank all the panelists and the moderator. And now let's have a short coffee break before the last panel. We are going to start at 5 minutes later, I believe.